And we're killing over 40,000 people a year, and then hundreds of thousands of people being injured and seriously injured. 40,000 people a year just is not acceptable, and yet we've been there for 25 years now. We've got the technology, we've got the know-how, we've got those tools in our tool bag, and we just seem to be lacking as a nation the will to make that leap forward. Hi, I'm Doug Campbell, president of the Automotive Safety Council, which is the nonprofit trade association for the automotive safety suppliers. And I'm here with Mike Madeline, who is the chairman of the board of the Automotive Safety Council, otherwise known as the ASC. And Mike is vice president of engineering of one of our member companies at Adient. So Mike, great to talk to you today.
Yeah, hi Doug, good to see you again. Post all of our NHTSA conversations of late, I think this is appropriate to have a chat about what we're doing and where we're going as the ASC.
Well, you know, ASC has been around a long time. Most people don't know that. It was founded in 1962 by 5 seatbelt suppliers. And if you remember back then, for those of you who were alive like me, there were no seatbelts in cars as standard equipment back then. It was an option. And so the seatbelt suppliers got together and said, you know, the life-saving benefits of this product is unbelievably good for the public. We need to do something. And so they created this trade association and started pushing the government about we got to make these things standard. And it was pushing the car companies and whatnot. And so indeed, NHTSA was created in the 1960s, and ASC actually helped write one of the first regulations with them about seatbelt performance. And then, of course, the putting them on the car was NHTSA's responsibility, but the usage of them was up to the states. And so ASC was very prominent in going to every state legislature in the country for many years after that, convincing them to make seatbelts a secondary or a primary law. And so it's one of the best things we've ever done as far as helping the public have safety is the seatbelt, simple seatbelt.
Yeah, and just wearing them. So even today, people don't wear seatbelts, as we find from the data. But if they did, I think it would. I think the data tells us that we would, if everybody wore their seatbelts and it was mandatory and they actually followed mandatory practice, or even if the OEMs and the regulators got together and said, well, we won't allow the car to move unless you're wearing your seatbelt. Of course, that can cause some other issues, but mainly from a safety perspective, I think it would cut it in half. Deaths and serious injuries would be cut in half, literally, especially for rear seat passengers. And that's what the ASC is really all about, is making people aware of what the safety systems in cars actually do for you. So
yeah, it's really crazy when you look at the data. 50% of today's fatalities are people who are not wearing their seatbelts, yet we have almost a 90% seatbelt usage in the country. It just shows you what magnitude of just 10% of the people not wearing seatbelts has as far as the total fatalities and serious injuries go. So it's one of the areas that we could really make a difference on.
Right, and it's such a simple thing to do. And the OEMs have put in seatbelt reminders and occupant sensors to tell when a person is in a seat, but we still like to push regulation to make sure people actually use it. So those are reminders to use your seatbelts, which of course, during validation, maybe people don't really know this, but the car is built around the occupant, and the occupant safety is built around the use of those safety features like seatbelts and airbags and, pretensioners, and the seat itself, frankly, holds the person in place. In the event of an accident or a crash, and we do all of our validation assuming those things are in place. And we do validation for occupants that are not belted, just to make sure they're still safe and the airbags work properly. But they work a lot better when they are working in collaboration and in tandem, which is one of the things that we do at the ASC. Is it gives us a forum. Really, and that's what I love about it the most. It gives us a forum to talk to other top tier 1 suppliers and industry experts, not just suppliers, but we have test houses and the companies that make the crash test dummies and FEA experts for finite element analysis to understand crashes that get together and really collaborate on what the next best things are that we can do in the industry. And that's what I love about the ASC.
Well, indeed, because of antitrust laws and things like that, and of course, all these companies are competitors with each other, and they have their own trade secrets and all those kind of things. Yet we're all in the same safety space, trying to make things better for the public. And so the ASC is the great forum for that because we can have competitors come together and work together with the other parts of the industry, and like Mike said, material suppliers, component suppliers, test houses. And we all work together to come up with the best recommendations we can make to the government about, or even to the OEMs about what we should be doing to improve safety for the public. Because we're killing over 40,000 people a year, and then hundreds of thousands of people being injured and seriously injured that we can do better on. It's always pained me when I look at how well Europe's done because they've put in a lot more safety features than what the U.S. has required, and the results show it. They have reduced their fatalities from 60,000 down to 19,000 over the last 20 years, whereas we've had a slight dip back in around 2010, but we're still, for the last 20 years, still hanging around 40,000, and a lot of it's because we have not put in the safety requirements, the same thing like as Europe's done, and quite frankly, Europe has been the benchmark for the rest of the world, so the rest of the world is using the benchmarks themselves. And so now China and India and all sorts of places are actually as good or better than U.S. now is in safety. And so that's one of the things I really want to see us do going forward is what can we as a group, the Automotive Safety Council and all of our members, try to encourage NHTSA and other places to incorporate more life-saving devices in the cars. And, we're not talking about raising the price of the car at thousands of dollars or anything like that because these things really are not that expensive. And so it's something that we really need to do something to move the needle forward. And so that's one of the goals we're really working on right now.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Doug. The data is out there. And being a global organization, we have access to all of it. And, all of our members are pretty much global as well. So when you see something that we can simply do, like just copy the Euro NCAP regulations and their playbook in the United States, which, as you said, we're still hovering around 40,000 deaths a year. Just copy their playbook and implement it. We don't have to do additional testing. We don't have to implement additional standards. We just have to do what's already been done somewhere else, and it doesn't cost us a thing. So, yeah, that's one of the things that I like about what we also do is educate the administration in all countries, but also here in the U.S. as to what can be done simply that doesn't cost the OEMs or the consumers for that matter, more money in the cars. And the technology for the simple things like I've already mentioned is already in the car. And it's just a matter of using it in a different way.
What I love about our organization is that we're such a broad-facing organization. And granted, as we've talked before, we started out with seatbelts, and then we added airbag members, and then literally all safety aspects. We've got, like Mike said, seating that goes in effect in this, but we got radar and cameras and the ADAS systems, which is the advanced driver assist systems that people hear about all the time about. They're seeing their Ford Blue and GM Cruise and all the other type of ones that are out there that you can get as options or whatever that help you brake, steer, aid you in providing better information to you as a driver. But there's so much misinformation out there about these things, about the terminology each car company uses that people don't understand that's really the same thing, or the fact we have these SAE levels now that are level 1, 2s, and 3s that the public really, I don't think, understands what those mean compared to us engineers. And so I don't think we've done a good enough job in educating the public about what all this terminology means. When we say AEB, automatic or emergency braking, or lane keeping, which is keeping your steering so that you're in the center of the lane, or et cetera. I mean, I don't think we've really explained to the public the benefits of these at all. And unfortunately, a lot of them operate just a little differently than each other in each of these cars. And so some of them have different color symbols or different chimes or different things that if you get into someone else's car, you don't know what it's telling you. I know when I get in a rental car, I mean, I've been in this business for so many years, and I get into a rental car, it's like, what's this thing telling me? Because it's not the car I usually drive. And so then I have to really start looking, and I know what this stuff is all about. I can't imagine what the general public thinks when all of a sudden some of these things start dinging and yelling at them in cars they're not familiar with. and what to do. What's it trying to tell me? So I think as an industry, we really need to do some public education, which I'm hoping our organization helps try to lead some of this now, because we really have to get the public knowledgeable to make better decisions, buying decisions, use decisions, and really help move the needle forward on protecting people.
Yeah, sometimes a simple thing like collaborating on globalizing a standard, like a seatbelt chime or like a seatbelt reminder user, or what the AEB, the Active Emergency Braking System, actually does, can actually promote safety in a more simplified manner for the public who it's meant for. And I think you'd have to remind me of the numbers, but as far as emergency braking, which is just simply the car brakes when you don't, because it's using cameras to see what's in front of it in time, has been huge for the industry. Just slowing down the car on time so that you either avoid an accident or don't hit the car in front of you as fast as you would if it was human controlled is all part of active safety. And I think that's one of the most exciting areas for us to be working in right now as an industry, and letting the public know, and the government know for that matter, what the opportunities are for reducing injuries and reducing deaths, which is what we're all about, is creating that awareness. And then going further, collaborating on like driver monitoring systems that are coming out today, that are monitoring for distracted, drunk, or drowsy drivers, for example, is another version of ADAS. But we can use the data from that system in other areas of the car that already exists. For example, if the occupant is out of position, we can use the data of where that occupant is in position during an event, like a crash, to change the way the airbags and the seat belts and the pretensioners and even the headrests work, or the seat repositions, to capture the occupant in a more safe condition. And that's what I think is really exciting. That's like where we're going as an industry, potentially, to keep occupants even safer.
Yeah, when you look at the data about distracted driving or drunk driving, they're at least 50% of the fatalities in the country, and anything we can do to alert the person to pull over or not drive, et cetera, will do wonders for reducing the fatalities, because, everyone, I don't think there's probably anyone in the country that doesn't have someone they know, a family member or a friend or whatever, that's been in a car crash. And I personally have been in one myself way back when I was in my early 20s, and the seatbelt saved my life, as an example. And I was one of only 5% of the people then that wore a seatbelt because I was in this business. But without it, I'd be a fatality. I'd be a statistic right now. So this is really the thing with all the cell phone and other technology now. And we've always unfortunately had drunk driving. About 30% of the fatalities have been drunk driving since I can remember. But there's new technology coming out on that is going to become available. It's just a matter of how it gets incorporated or not, which you literally will either measure the alcohol content in your breath or through your skin on the steering wheel, and won't allow you to start the car, won't allow you to drive the car if you're too drunk, as an example. And but those are the areas that have all sorts of pitfalls about how to incorporate it, and people's rights and all those kind of things that as an industry and government we have to work through. But the technology is coming along that will allow us to help keep distracted drivers off the road, drowsy drivers, alert them and get them awake and take action, or keep the drunk drivers off the road. So there's just so much going on right now. And then, of course, all of this eventually leads potentially to the famous automated driving or autonomous driving, where the car drives itself. You see the Waymos on the cars in some of the streets around the country. People need to understand those are highly, as we call, geofenced, or highly segregated areas. They have lots of restrictions on what they can do as far as what speed they go, what roads they get on, and how they're trained to go there. Well, while successful in a lot of cities, there's still lots of issues that if you read in the paper, a Waymo just hit a child in a school district, or a Waymo didn't pay attention to school districts, speed limits. There's still so much, because if you can imagine, you have to train the car for what a person naturally knows and sees is a difficult task. A lot of people are trying it. We've gotten some success so far, like I said, on limited capabilities, and so there's a lot of activity going on that. And of course, the government's very interested in seeing if they should regulate it or not. And of course, we're actually in the midst right now of giving input into the government about those kinds of things. So it's kind of a wild, wild west kind of a situation where everybody's trying all sorts of things, but at the same time, we have to be very cognizant of not hurting people while we do it. So it's a very interesting time for us in auto safety. So the great part about it is all the things we've been talking about, especially the ADAS part, the automatic braking and steering and distracted driving, all those kind of things. Those are all building blocks that lead up to eventually getting to autonomous driving. Now, I don't think you or I will buy one in our lifetime, quite frankly.
Well, I don't know, maybe, you don't know, but it is taking a lot longer because it is the chaos of the everyday world of driving that they're trying to harness, that the human brain understands. Now with the advent of more powerful AI, who knows what will happen? Things are changing rather rapidly. I mean, I remember when the cell phone came out, and then, right, we started talking about distracted driving and what that means to the occupant. And that's where AEB really, the emergency braking systems really came into play a lot at reducing that. Or, like you mentioned, the lane departure warning, or, vibrating the seat, for example, to warn somebody, or the steering wheel to warn somebody that they're not paying attention to the road. And, you at 60 miles an hour, you're traveling, hundreds of yards a minute, or even hundreds of feet a second. And, 1 second of distraction is all it takes to cause, serious injury and an accident. But yeah, with the advent of that technology, we'll see where we go. But that's the whole point of the ASC, is to look at that new technology, work with regulatory agencies, and understand, and the OEMs, and understand what we can all do together to make everything safer for the consumer.
The thing I love about our organization, our members literally make the components, the systems, the software for all these types of various systems and subsystems, and so we're right in the thick of it. We're right in the middle of doing the innovation and the production and seeing what needs to be done to make it better going forward. And so, our organization's got about, I think, around 36 to 40 members right now, and like I said, what I really like about the fact is that it encompasses everything from testing to raw materials to components to complex systems. We're all in this together, we're working together, and so it's just a great forum for us to be able to come up with advice to government or test places around the world, whether it be Euro NCAP or Insurance Institute or NHTSA or whoever. Give our input in there so that they can make better decisions and understand the technology better, and together we can hopefully move the needle forward, because this is just, we've just become too commonplace. 40,000 people a year just is not acceptable, and yet we've been there for 25 years now where we've been killing that many people on our roads, and we've done all this kind of technology improvement, yet we're not seeing to move the needle enough. And I think a lot of it's because cars are heavier now, people are heavier now, more distracted driving, we got the drunk driving. We've never really addressed some of the basic causes that are overshadowing all the improvements we made, because like we said earlier, Europe has seen those improvements. They've done a marvelous job, and they've done it more in combination with all the technologies together, instead of piecemealing it. They have a great roadmap that they follow, so everyone knows what's going to be done, what the anticipated benefit is, and suppliers can plan for it. Car companies can plan for it, for where to do their research money, where to put their production tooling at, what the plan for production is. So it's a really marvelous system they have over there, and I'm just hoping that we can start emulating that more than what we have in the past.
Yeah, the interesting thing is people aren't really different sizes and shapes in Europe as they are here in the Americas. So we certainly are going to be able to make an impact. just by doing the blocking and tackling and still picking some unfortunate low-hanging fruit that like you mentioned, we're in with NHTSA here in the States to try to move the needle a lot faster than it's been moving. And a lot of it has to do with turnover at the government agencies that doesn't necessarily help us. We need to re-educate them, and that's another thing that we stand for, is making sure that education is there, the data is there. Being a corporate, a trade organization that's been around for 60 plus years, there's a lot of history, and it's rampant in our discussions, and it's very clear that we understand where we've been and where we need to go. We just have to drag regulation along with us, and it doesn't necessarily need to be regulated. Like we keep saying, education is a big part of it, and just using the systems properly makes a big difference.
Well, for instance, everybody's used to looking at their window sticker on the car, and that's where you get the star ratings that you'll see about. But unfortunately, here in the States, the star ratings you see in your car is just for frontal impact and side impact. And whereas in Europe, it's a whole cadre of pedestrian protection and like we talked about earlier, the ADAS protection, how well the vehicle operates under certain test protocols. And there's just so much more knowledge given to the buying public in Europe, as an example, as compared to here. And I think that's an issue. And then our regulations, quite frankly, have become outdated from the standpoint like side impact. It was written around the vehicles that were made at the time, which was 30 years ago, and the vehicles have become bigger and heavier now. And so we protect people to a certain mass or weight, if you want to think of it that way, and the mass of the vehicles now are almost twice that much. But yet we haven't improved the regulations to protect against that new mass. And so I think some of those things are going on. Again, our dummies, or the OETDs, the humanoid dummies that we use in testing, they don't represent the public as they once did, because again, they're based upon the 1960s demographics of the U.S. population, and certainly since the 1960s, as we all know, we've become heavier in general, and so those dummies should be updated because we're protecting occupants that not that many of them fit that category anymore. And so there's some really basic things that we need to do to upgrade our current regulations that are there. They're good regulations, but they're just out of date on the features that we're testing for, as an example. And there's just lots of, like we say, low-hanging fruit that we could be doing that
exactly
can help things do things, but that's up to, again, trying to convince the government to do that. And unfortunately, they've been kind of a slow-moving boat, shall we say, for many years now. But NCAP is a great way to educate people. Again, that's when we talk about Euro NCAP, that's what we're talking about, is that Europe has the window sticker like we have, except it's got so much more information on it for people to make decisions. And Euro NCAP, unlike here in the United States, it's not a government body. It's an independent coalition of test houses and some government agencies. But as you know, Europe's many, many countries. And so together, they've band together to improve safety. But it's not a regulation. It's purely information to the public to make good buying decisions. And when they look at it and say, oh, this car is twice as safe as this car over here, I'll buy the safer car. And car companies can decide if they want to put the equipment in or not. It's just let the public demand, let capitalism do its job, and it's worked fabulously. Without regulation, they've moved the needle so much farther. Unfortunately, here in the States, our NCAP is controlled by the government, and so it's not independent like it is in other parts of the world, and so it doesn't move quickly and is not near as effective as communicating the information. So I'm really hopeful that we're going to be able to break that log jam and get that going better.
Yeah, we will continue to do the communication and move the needle. But, NHTSA is a partner. One of our other partners, the International Institute of Highway Safety, is trying to move that needle and is holding the government a little more accountable by putting out safety requirements, or not really requirements, but star values for how safe the cars are here as well. And we work closely with them. For example, they just released a new protocol for anti-whiplash, and it's called IHS 2.0. And we're reviewing that together with a few OEMs and with IHS for ensuring that what we're looking at, the data that we're gathering, and how we're testing and the testing setups make sense and actually impact the consumer like we want it to impact the consumer by improving the safety of the car, under a rear impact event. And would say, you got a great point with regards to the dummies. At least the dummies have come up to speed with regards to what they're able to feed into the test data. So the Thor dummies are a recent release that are a large step in advancement in understanding what happens during a crash event to the occupant, as well as the BioRit dummy, which we will also be using for anti-whiplash testing. So these are advances that have come over the years, but it didn't address the size issue, which we're going to have to take into account with the G loads that go into the body, which is, how fast do I actually hit an object, creates a G force, and that's how we create the crash testing pulses that we use to understand the injury criteria that happen to people, and those advancements in dummies help us to do that. And then taking that to the next step, which I think is another exciting field, is using that in how we model things in the computer, computer graphics. We call it computer-aided engineering or computer-aided design, and finite element analysis, where we're simulating crash testing virtually. And there's been significant advancements with the latest chips that have come out and the speed for which we can process that, which allows us to look at many, many more use cases as we're developing the safety of the automotive car.
Yeah, I love the simulation because, back in the early days of airbags, you had to go down and run a physical test, and you'd change the parameters, run another physical test, and you just can't afford or do enough testing. There's just not enough time or money or resources to do it. Whereas then when computer simulation came out, we could do optimization programs where we'd literally simulate 1,000 different variables in a crash and optimize it to what was going to be the best one for that vehicle for the occupant. And so all of a sudden the optimization became so much better. And now with the advanced chips and simulation technology now, it's amazing what can be done as far as optimizing safety with all the various parameters that go into it. And I don't think the public understands how many parameters go into a crash when you consider how the entire vehicle deforms in the crash and how the energy is transmitted through the vehicle and how it eventually gets to the occupant, and then what do the safety devices do on a crash to protect the occupant if it didn't prevent the accident in the first place. And it's unbelievable the number of variables that go into just coming up with that. And the simulation is such a wonderful tool, but wow, what a lot of work has to go into creating the model to have all those inputs into it. I mean, we're talking about thousands of different data points that have to be put in and understood and captured and analyzed, and then come up with an optimized solution. So it's
that's right. And it's high-low studies where you take all the tolerances into account as well, not just
exactly. Well, you're talking about the Insurance Institute earlier, and I love those people. They are moving the needle. They are doing great work in the absence of the government moving forward at any kind of a pace. And so, like you said, the whiplash, they improved the side impact test where, as we were talking about earlier, we don't protect against the heavier masses of today's vehicles, but the Insurance Institute does. They recently, in the last couple of years, increased the mass and the speed on the side impact test that now is more representative of what's actually that people drive every day in the public. And so they're starting to show what cars are not coming up to speed like they should be as far as safety protection goes. And so they have their safety pick and top safety pick plus, and they have their criterias for that, where it's not a star rating like we see on the window. Everyone should go to the Insurance Institute site and see how they've rated the vehicle you may be considered purchasing. It's all right there on their site. It's really easy to get to. And they've done a great job in trying to help people understand which cars operate better when it comes to safety than other ones. And again, it's not a regulation. They do it. actually to help educate their members, which are the insurance companies of the country, and they want to be able to reduce rates and understand what can be done to help their side of the business, which is obviously we all have insurance, and so therefore, how can we lower the insurance by lowering the cost of having these accidents, preventing the accidents, and then having the results be better for the person who's insured. And so, while everyone says, well, it's self-serving, maybe,
But
but
it makes people safer.
self-serving.
It makes people safer.
It's self-serving for the public. It's a
Right.
win-win all across the board, and so really enjoy working with them. And they have a new program called 30 by 30. They want to reduce fatalities 30% by 2030, and it's very ambitious. But I'm really we're working hard with them on that. Our technical committees and the Automotive Safety Council are engaged with them, trying to give them our insights and inputs to help try to move that needle forward on the project they're trying to do. So it's while they don't have government regulatory authority, they certainly do have public opinion authority as far as publishing results and exposing vehicles that are better than others. And so it's just a way to do things in light of regulation.
Yeah, and I think our own initiative, Drive for Safety, to educate the public even further is going to have another impact as we move forward this year. So that's another thing to look for people interested to check us out.
Yeah, I'm excited about this new initiative we have, Driven to Safety, and we're going to try to be a conduit to the public about what some of this terminology mean, kind of make it down into just plain everyday speak, shall we say, that people can understand what the technology is actually doing and how it does it, and so they can make informed decisions about how to use it and then what cars to buy that has the features on it. So I think it's something that's been missing that I hope that we can help kind of fill that gap where we can. And I'm excited about that. It kind of reminds me back in the 90s when airbags first came out, and all of a sudden we were killing small stature drivers and we were killing and injuring children in the cars because of the airbags were coming out so fast. And the people were in, as we call, out of position. They were in the path of the deploying airbag. And so when that airbag came out with such force, it could actually fatally kill them by breaking their neck or whatever. And so it became something that was
Right,
like,
the industry reacted.
we reacted, and the Automotive Safety Council, which was then known as the Automotive Occupant Restraints Council, because we were just only seatbelts and airbags back then, we actually took the charge on it. I personally was in charge of that for the organization, and worked with Senator John McCain, the late Senator John McCain, and his Energy and Commerce Committee. And we tackled the item head on by educating them about what was going on. The airbags were coming out too fast, what we need to do. And as an industry then, we rallied together and came up with solutions which went from just one airbag deployment at one speed for any and all to having the vulnerable users, such as children. This is where it comes from. The children in the back seat mantra you'll hear. Children in the back seat. That's what originated that saying, is that put the children in the back seat so they're out of harm's way, and that we had weight sensors put in so that we knew what size the occupant was, and then we came up with seat belts that had improved what we call load limiters that allows the belt to hold onto you very tightly to the point where we don't want to hurt your ribs, and we allow you to pay forward into the airbag as a system. And we had those things combined together with new variable output airbags. And so the airbags now, instead of just one size fits all, where we have three sizes fits three categories, and we were able to categorize people by weight and size, where the seat position was going forward and backwards, so we know how close you were to the deploying airbag. And if we knew you were too close, we would have a reduced airbag come out because you were too close to it and we didn't want to injure you. So lots of things went into that, but as ASC was the entire impetus for that. Fought through a lot of political red tape and industry concerns, and we were able to come together in the end and to come up with something that's so much better for the public. And today it's just not even thought of. It's just like an afterthought. It's like, well, yeah, you got this multiple output airbag that's sized for people and seating positions, but most of the public, I don't think, has any understanding of that at all, that these
Well, that,
airbags
that
have
is
been
the
developed.
evolution of the technology, like everything.
Well,
The
it is,
evolution
and
of
we
the
got
technology
we got
and the safety factors that we put in.
the bags themselves have different vent sizes and have different shapes to them, and the bags themselves now are not just one balloon, shall we say. They're very complicated about how they are restricted in size and shape and how the gas is allowed to go out of them. The whole thing is about energy management, because that's what you are as an occupant in a crash, is that you have a certain amount of energy going forward, and we need to somehow reduce that energy at a pace that will not injure you severely. And so, as an example, if there was no airbag there at all, you would hit something very hard. So something very hard, very fast, I'm sure the public can understand, would be very hurtful. So it's our job is to literally hold you, catch you, ride your energy down until the vehicle is literally over the crash and you are protected. So it's and
That's
all in a
good.
blink of an eye, which is just an amazing technology in itself.
Another thing I really like about the council and being a member is there are direct and indirect means by which we affect the safety of the consumer. Like the direct method the ASC gets involved is like you stated with regards to driving regulation for airbag safety, positioning, and occupant classification systems, and making sure that we're not injuring people when we introduce a new technology. But then on the more passive side, and this is where the members really have an impact and get together. I think a great example is zero gravity seating, which took off in China, especially with electric vehicles, because they wanted to give their passengers a place to rest while they waited for the vehicles to charge. And the penetration rate of EVs in China is something on the order of 30 to 40% today. But the charging systems aren't there yet. Now, the problem, of course, is when you're laying down in your seat. You can also potentially do that while driving, and if you don't have a shutoff, you're not in a real safe position. But that led to a collaboration between a few members to come up with a zero gravity seat that was a lot safer, that incorporated belts into the seat, all the belts into the seat, which we call ABTS, all belts to the seat, and the airbags and the positioning systems and the seatbelts to all work together as a system. And that's when things change in the industry, we react. And we react because we have a forum to come together and work collaboratively to deal with these types of things where we don't necessarily or can't necessarily work that way through any other neutral source like we have at the Automotive Safety Council.
That's the thing I love about our organization is that we can make sure we keep antitrust laws intact, but yet we can work together to come up with better systems and recommendations as in general for the industry with whoever wants to listen to us, whether it be the government or test houses or the public or whomever. And so it's the vehicle which the safety suppliers can do that. And I really like that. And as an example, right now, NHTSA put out a big blurb on it, which has been around for a long time, but it's the Chinese counterfeit airbags that are being found in the public now that are going off and killing people because they're just horrific, cheap, purposely poorly made devices just to make money. They're nowhere close to being able to function correctly, which is why they're exploding and killing people. And it turns out it looks like there's lots of them out there. And we've been working on it for years with the government. But like, for instance, ASC recently has joined an industry group called A2C2. And what it is, it's the anti-counterfeit group. And so our members then work through this group to provide information like on trademarks or serial numbers or markings or whatever, that the customs people and border patrol can try to intercept these units as they enter the country. Or once they're in the country, if they find someone selling them, they can identify them and take them out of service, as an example. But it really comes down to, I think, two issues. One is that repair shops are always looking for the lowest cost alternative to repair an accident that's not being repaired through a dealership, as an example. And so they go into the open market and they buy these, whether or whatever website. And these counterfeiters are really good about hiding their identity and making things look good and all those kind of things. And so they unwarily buy these products, put them in the cars, and then of course the person is killed or injured because of this horrible counterfeit airbag that's been put in their cars. So something we're working hard on right now as an industry with various government agencies, with car companies, and because we've got to do something about this. And then, of course, quite frankly, one of the criticisms we had back at the car companies is that, well, if your replacement airbags through the dealership weren't so expensive, maybe people would be buying the original equipment version, which is what people should be using. And that maybe that's a way that they could contribute to helping solve this problem. And I know a lot of the car companies are absolutely looking at that, saying, well, that's something we really need to see what we can do to try to make it more competitive price-wise, so that the repair shops come to the dealership instead of to some fraudulent website to buy a counterfeit part. So
Yeah, I
something we're
love
working
that
hard as an
example.
industry. But like anything, when when there's money to be made, there's somebody unscrupulous out there that's going to take advantage of it that doesn't have any morals about what they're doing to, especially the public, especially when it's from a foreign country that has no interest in the well-being of the United States anyway. And so it's really a serious issue that we're working very hard on right now. And I was really happy that NHTSA has limited authority on this, but they've weighed in on it now everywhere they can because they don't have any responsibility for used vehicles, as an example. But the fact it's that dangerous, they're putting out warnings and working on it. And there's probably 10 government agencies that are all trying to come together, and they have their own issues about authority, things like that they're allowed to do. So it's quite the effort, but my gosh, we've got to do that because
Well, I love that example because of the collaboration. It's not just with government, but with other trade agencies like ourselves at the Automotive Safety Council that we're working together to solve an issue that's really prevalent in the industry today and attacking all of the root causes, not just the fact that they're cheaper, but like you said, let's create a space where people and repairmen can buy things at a reasonable price when it comes down to safety.
I think it's just a great example of how our organization interacts with everyone else. And so I've been with our organization since 1987. I'm an old guy. I've got the longest tenure of anyone ever, evidently. The founder of the organization was the first president, and he was from 1962 to 1998, and so 36 years, and I have 39 now, evidently. So, at any rate, it's just something I just firmly believe in so passionately about. We've got to protect the people. We've got to give technology. We've got to give them information. We've got to help them make the right decisions. We've got to do something because there's just 40,000 people, and obviously fatalities is the final point. The most egregious, but the hundreds of thousands of people that are seriously injured that we don't seem to talk about enough, that are debilitated or have lower leg injuries, or yes, we saved their life, but now their quality of life or their ability to work has been greatly diminished. Now, granted, we're not at fault for the accident, we're not at fault for causing that, but what can we do to help people that are seriously injured be less injured or not injured at all? I mean, that's to me is just our great calling of our organization and the whole industry, and we're making great progress on it, but yet we're not because we don't have the government support and some of the things that need to be done at this time. And so,
Well, but we're pulling together the people that have the passion. I mean, you've been passionate for 39 years and you still are. So
absolutely, yeah.
that's really the key is we're pulling in passionate people and those are just representatives of companies that are passionate about producing things that make people safe and working together with the OEMs to incorporate those into cars and trucks to make them safe and safer as well as we move forward. So I think
Well, my current mantra is kind of basically we've got the technology, we've got the know-how, we've got new technologies, whether it be alcohol detection or drowsy driving or accident prevention or even leading up to autonomous. We've got those tools in our tool bag, in my opinion, right now. What we lack is the will to put them on the cars, the will to do this. We just seem to be lacking as a nation the will to make that leap forward to get these things on the vehicles to protect the public and quit harming all these people. I'd just like to see us really step up to the plate on that. I guess that's the message I've been giving our government and other people that want to listen, is that we're here, let's just do it. So I want to take the Nike tag. That's why I say we have to have the will to do it instead of just do it. But at any rate, I sure hope that's my great hope going forward, is that we're going to get the will and we're going to move forward. And much like Europe and other places have already done it, and let's just do it.
And we will. With Driven to Safety, let's start there and keep moving the needle.